While walking to the checkout line, have you ever had to put something back because you just counted your money or checked your account and you see that you won't have enough for all of your items? Now, what if those things were things that you absolutely needed, like body wash or food? It'd be sad, wouldn't it? Clearly, all of us are attending college to obtain the degree of our choice, but what I'm really wondering is how many college students actually work at a restaurant as a server or bartender to make ends meet while they're attending classes full time. I worked at a restaurant for 6 years, 4 of those during high school, and then on and off again during college. At the time, it was a good job because of the hours and it didn't require a degree of any sorts. If I wouldn't have gotten my CNA due to attending nursing school, there's no doubt that I'd still be working at a restaurant or as a bartender or server while I finish my degree of choice. A lot of college kids choose to work in a restaurant while they obtain their degree because, for the most part, it can bring in a lot of money. And a lot of the restaurants, especially around here, allow for college students to leave in August and come back in the summer and pick up right where they left off. But today I'm going to talk about the huge debate whether or not tipping should be mandatory when you are served. There are so many things that play into this topic, but I'd like to just give you a little glimpse of how others may see it. So, as some may say, they shouldn't have a job that pays minimum wage or lower if they're trying to make a living. The Iowa minimum wage for servers is $4.35 an hour, according to the U.S. Department of Labor. But if their tips for the night don't add up to making at least the minimum wage, then their employer has to make up for the difference. The regular minimum wage in Iowa is $7.25 an hour, with some believing it should be more than that. But I personally don't believe in that specific debate, but that is for another time. Some may say that there are plenty of jobs around that will hire college kids without a degree, but the only thing that really comes to mind is retail here in northern Iowa. I worked in retail during the holiday season one year, and it just was not for me. I'm not sure if it was because I had to make a lot of small talk with customers as they came through my checkout line, or if it was because of the stupid vest that I had to wear, but it just was not my cup of tea. Some days I caught myself running around to stay caught up, while others I barely did anything. No matter how hard I had worked that holiday season, or how many Christmas trees I assembled and carried out to customers' vehicles, I was still making $7.25 an hour. And there was no way at the time that was going to pay my bills alone. Tipping your servers allows for the back staff to be adequately paid for their hard work as well. The 2 restaurants I have worked in have paid the kitchen staff very well. When asked what my hourly wage was as a cook one summer, my employer gave me a standard and said, anywhere from $50 to $75 a night, but if we're real busy, then it'll be more than that. And let me tell you, my checks definitely reflected that. There have also been times when a server has come back and said to the cook and I, my table left this for you guys. But of course, the kitchen staff never expects anything from our customers. We are always shocked with the simple, the food is great, every now through the kitchen door. Michael Lind contributed to the article, Why Do We Tip, by Melanie Saltzman, with the comment of, I think that there are 5 basic motives of tipping. Some people tip to show off, some people tip to help the server, to supplement their income and make them happy. Some people tip to get a future service, and then other people tip to avoid disapproval. You don't want the server to think bad of you, and some people tip out of the sense of duty. Just the other night, while out eating with a couple of friends, one of them had leaned over and said, whoever gets his table is lucky because I heard that he hands out $100 bills for fun. Being that my mom and I both work at restaurants around the lake during the summer for the fun of it, and since I had worked in one for so long, every time I go out to eat, I always leave 10 to 20%. But of course, there are things that play into that. If they were great, then they'll get more. But if it was just okay, then I'll leave a little less. It's not even that I feel obligated to tip my server, but I am the one that chose to go out to eat instead of eating in, to be waited on instead of being my own server. Therefore, the server deserves a little extra. Thank you for bringing me my dinner. I know what it's like to be flustered and have so many things going on that you just forget to check up on someone. I also know that there are individuals who judge their waitress by the way that their food comes out or it doesn't come out exactly how they wanted it. But that is not always their fault, which some have failed to realize. Servers work hard for their money, especially this past week with the holiday season and so many tourists in town. If tipping became mandatory with a fixed percentage, it would completely hinder the work ethic of servers. The picture that I am now showing you is from the Data Essential Report in the National Restaurant Association 2016's report. If servers know what they are always going to get 20% of the table's bills, then it would drastically decrease their amount of effort to the serving, and everyone and everything would be in an uproar. As Kevin Jones said in the article written by Hanfield, tipping should be mandatory, but it is essentially an unwritten rule. Most corporate restaurants have a tip-out percentage based on sales to the busser or bartender, not tips, which basically means a server could actually lose money on a serving table if the diners do not tip. But 90% of the general public have no clue of this. Mandatory auto gratuity won't allow for servers to take their money home at the end of the night, but it would allow for extra taxes to be taken out from the check come payday. Having a mandatory tip would aggravate customers. Instead, it should just be a suggested tip with several different percentages. Auto gratuity should start at 5 to 10%, and then the customer will have the option to leave more if they please and none at all, depending on their dining experience and service. There are so many things that play into this topic, and it is really difficult to understand and appreciate the service we receive while dining out. But what we do need to realize that if we don't want to give thanks to our servers, then we should stay at home and feed ourselves. Tipping shouldn't necessarily be a restaurant policy that it is mandatory, but next time you are about to pay at a restaurant, think to yourselves, was my service really that bad that I shouldn't leave my server a single cent?